Hello, fight fans, and welcome to another edition of Monday Night Fight Talk. As always, I am your host, Dylan Brewski. While we did not have any UFC this weekend, which is always very sad when we don't get those types of weekends where there's no UFC. We did get a little bit MMA. We did have Bellator 285 happen on Friday, so I will be getting into that. Also, there are a few other different topics I'm going to talk about as well, including Khamzat Chimaev possibly moving up to middleweight. I'll be talking about that. Bobby Green's failed drug test that happened before UFC 276. And also, I will be doing some predictions for UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern taking on Xiaonan. So stay tuned for all that. Should be a very fun show. Let's start off with Bellator, though. Bellator 285. I'm going to talk about the co-main and the main event here. Starting with the co-main, Yoel Romero taking on Melvin Manhoef. Yoel Romero, I don't know why I'm struggling to say that. Yoel Romero, there we go, showed up on Friday night, or Friday afternoon, I should say, as it took place in Dublin, Ireland. So over here it was a bit of an afternoon showing, but Yoel Romero looked absolutely magnificent in this fight. He controlled the fight for the most part and showed he still got all the power that he has possessed his entire career. I mean, we've seen Yoel Romero throughout his career and the power that he possesses. He hasn't seemed to slow down at all, even since his move to Bellator. Much respect to Manhoef, though, for taking this fight with a guy like Yoel Romero, who's just a different freak athlete than most fighters are used to, and especially with it being so much speculation going into this fight that this was going to be the last time that he stepped in the cage, which ended up being. So congratulations to him on having a fantastic career, but at the end of the day, it was a sad ending to that career, getting just the ground and pound, those elbows just completely knocking him out in the third round. I mean, third round, Yoel Romero might be the scariest human being on the planet. I don't know why that's so scary, but he was just too much in this fight. He ended up getting the third round KO victory. So congratulations to Yoel Romero. I definitely see if he wins one or two more fights, I don't know what my dog's doing back there, but she's going crazy right now. But I think another win or two under his belt, Yoel Romero could be sniffing a light heavyweight title shot in Bellator. I would not be surprised at all to see that happen. But also, we had a very entertaining main event. Benson Henderson taking on Peter Quayle. Another fighter showing that he still has it, though, and Benson Henderson looked phenomenal in this fight. Peter Quayle had an incredible walkout, but unfortunately for him, in front of his home crowd, that was about the only bright spot of the night for Peter Quayle. Benson Henderson really controlled this entire fight. He had that crazy up kick that I can't say I've ever seen before. It was absolutely phenomenal. He had a great showing in this fight. He's got, I think, 3 fights left after this one on his Bellator contract. He's talked about how this is probably his last run. So I definitely see him having a big motivation to try to keep winning, maybe get one last title shot in the books on an already great career. I mean, former UFC lightweight champion, had a few defenses there. I believe he was also a WEC champion and Bellator champion. So, I mean, he has had a great career. I hope he gets one last run. I hope he gets that one last title shot because I've always loved watching Benson Henderson fight, and he just had a great showing. In front of a hostile crowd, too. Peter Quayle was at home in Ireland, and Benson Henderson took him down there. So that was very impressive to see. So congratulations to Benson Henderson on picking up the decision victory. But let's move on to a little bit of UFC news. The first one I'm going to talk about is the rumors of Khamzat Chimaev moving up to middleweight. If what happened the last with UFC 279, where the doctor told him to quit cutting weight, or if he's just really struggling to get down to 170, I'm all for him moving up to 185. I think he's strong enough. We saw how he fought Gilbert Burns, and Gilbert Burns is also a big welterweight. Gilbert Burns is a humongous welterweight and very strong at welterweight too. So I think we've seen someone that can hold their own, that's a big person for that weight class, to where I think Khamzat would be just fine at middleweight. I don't think he would get overpowered. I don't think it would be like a Robert Whittaker possibly going up to light heavyweight where he might have a little bit of a struggle with the weight difference. I see this one making a little bit more sense. Plus, you have a fight already booked if you move up to welterweight or up to middleweight if you're Khamzat Chimaev. You have beef with Paulo Costa. Khamzat Chimaev versus Paulo Costa is a ginormous draw. And it's a very fun fight to watch. Plus, both of these guys are contenders. It's not... No disrespect to Nathan Diaz. I love Nathan Diaz, and I can't wait to see where he goes after the UFC, but Nathan Diaz wasn't a contender anymore when they were originally supposed to fight. Paulo Costa is a serious contender. He's right outside the top 5 in the middleweight division, where the rest of the top 5 has already been run through by Israel Adesanya, barring Alex Pereira beating Israel Adesanya, but everybody else in the top 5 of that division has already been beat by Israel Adesanya at least one time. So Khamzat comes up to middleweight. He beats Paulo Costa. He's right in the championship picture at middleweight also. So I don't see this being a bad move for Khamzat Chimaev. I think it's actually a smart move, especially if you're struggling so bad to get down to 170. Why not just go up to 185? You've proven that you are strong enough and you are skilled enough as a grappler to be able to hang at middleweight. I think he'd be just fine there. Plus, like I just said, I mean, there's a fight booked. You get Khamzat Chimaev at 185, and Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev is the easiest booking in UFC history. So if I'm Khamzat, I'm doing it personally. But we'll have to wait and see what he does on his own. Next up, Bobby Green's failed drug test. This is definitely a very tough situation. He claims he took over-the-counter supplements from Walmart and didn't realize that there was a banned substance in that supplement. Which, I'll be honest, I believe him. I don't see... Bobby Green's been around long enough. We all know Bobby Green. He's not a cheater. Bobby Green doesn't do stuff like this. So I do believe him. And I think he realizes his mistake. He's come out, he's apologized, he feels bad. He made a mistake. It happens. But I don't want to compare it to another sport because I know not a lot of people, or not a lot, not everybody watches other sports, especially baseball. But, I mean, comparing it to Fernando Tatis' situation, who just got suspended for 80 games in the MLB season for almost the same situation. He claims that he took something. He didn't know that it had a banned substance in it, and now he's suspended. Well, whether I believe both of them, one of them, neither of them, it doesn't change the fact that if you're a professional athlete and you know there is a list of substances that you cannot take, you should know every single thing that is in these supplements and whether you can take them or not. I don't care if it's over the counter. I don't care if it's Tylenol. If there's something in Tylenol that you can't take, don't take Tylenol. You guys need to do the research before you start taking these things, before you start putting these things in your body, especially if you've never taken it before. If it was something where Bobby Green's been taking this for a decade and all of a sudden something changed in the recipe or whatever you want to say, then that's one thing. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily blame him as much. But he's taking a new substance, and just because it's over the counter doesn't mean that these substances aren't banned. And it's an unfortunate situation. I get it. It was more than likely unintentional, but to me, I think these athletes just need to be a little bit more aware of what's going on, what they're putting in their bodies, because, I mean, look at Bobby Green, look at Fernando Tatis. They're now suspended because of a failed drug test on something that they claim was completely unintentional. And it sucks to see, but there's rules, and you have to follow those rules. And both of these guys, whether it was intentional or not, broke the rules. So I don't know. It's a very tough situation when it comes to Bobby Green. We all love Bobby Green. I mean, how do you not love the guy? He's awesome. He's actually the main event of the first Monday Night Fight Talk. The weekend before was Islam Makhachev taking on Bobby Green. Was the first Monday Night Fight Talk, or the last Saturday before Monday Night Fight Talk premiered. So I like Bobby Green, but you got to be a little bit more aware of what you're putting in your body if you are an athlete like him. But now let's get into some UFC Fight Night predictions. We didn't get to do them last week because there was no event this weekend, but we do have an event this next weekend. Very excited for that one. Two of the best women's strawweights on the planet going head-to-head. But that's not the only fight I'm going to be talking about. There's two other fights, so a combined 3 fights I will be predicting on this Fight Night card. First up, this fight might actually be the first fight of the night, but I'm very excited for it, mostly because of the opportunity it presents for one of these fighters. Starting off with Jessica Penne taking on Baby Shark Tabitha Ricci, the veteran Penne looking to bounce back after a loss to Emily Duco earlier this year. Taking this fight on short notice, which was kind of surprising. You don't see a lot of veterans taking fights against young up-and-comers like Tabitha Ricci on late notice. You don't see it a lot, but props to Jessica Penne for taking this fight against the up-and-comer, looking to make her biggest statement since joining the UFC, and Tabitha Ricci. Both ladies are absolutely tremendous grapplers. I see the fight taking place mostly in grappling positions, whether it be the clinch, whether it be on the ground. I just see a lot of grappling taking place in this fight. But I think Penne is past her prime, unfortunately for her. And Tabitha Ricci is just coming into hers. We've seen the last 2 performances she's had has been absolutely fantastic. The one before that, I mean, she faced Manon Fiorot, she's climbing the rankings really, really fast. So I'm not going to fault her too much. Plus, I believe Ricci was actually up a weight class to fight Manon Fiorot. So not going to hold it too much against her, but I am going with Tabitha Ricci to continue this win streak, extending it to 3. I'm going with Tabitha Ricci by decision. Next up, Sadiq Youssef taking on Don Shainis. A big opportunity for Shainis, stepping up on short notice, taking the place of Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze and Sadiq Youssef were supposed to fight each other on the Corey Sandhagen and Song Yadong fight card. Chikadze had to pull out. I still haven't heard why he had to pull out of that fight. I'm not 100% sure why, but it does present a big opportunity for Don Shainis, making his UFC debut, taking this fight on short notice against a ranked opponent and Sadiq Youssef. This could be a very, very big opportunity for Shainis. Unlike the last fight, this one is very much a strikers matchup. Shainis does have a little bit of a ground game. He has a couple submission wins under his belt. but he's not a big grappler. Plus, Sadiq Youssef has pretty good takedown defense, so maybe if he's in some trouble, he tries to get the fight to the ground, but I don't see it happening for the most part. I got to give props to Sheamus for taking this fight again, but I see this being a pretty one-sided matchup. I think Sadiq Youssef is the real deal. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I'm going Sadiq Youssef in a pretty dominant victory via second round TKO. And then that leads to our main event of the evening. Mackenzie Dern taking on Xiaonan. Two of the best strawweights in the world, like I said before, going head-to-head. Both have been close to that title shot. They both had crazy rises through the rankings, but keep on coming up just short. They face the best of the best. And unfortunately for them, those ladies take them down. Dern was on a great run of 4 straight wins before losing to Marina Rodriguez just under a year ago. She has since come back. She beat Tisha Torres earlier this year in a very, very close fight at UFC 273, where Xiaonan hadn't lost in 14 straight pro fights, including her first 6 UFC bouts before losing her last 2 to the current champ Carla Esparza, and earlier this year also losing to Marina Rodriguez. Both ladies, again, were going to an incredible grapplers matchup in here. But Mackenzie Dern has a massive advantage in the jiu-jitsu department. She is a jiu-jitsu wizard. She has, like I just said, an incredible advantage in the jiu-jitsu department. Not saying Xiaonan doesn't have great jiu-jitsu. It's just Mackenzie Dern's is just on a whole nother level from hers. Plus, Xiaonan is more of a wrestler. She's a very good wrestler. She can get a lot of people to the ground. So I do see her trying to get the fight to the ground, but I think she could find herself in some pretty bad predicaments if she does. I think that the jiu-jitsu advantage for Mackenzie Dern is going to be the biggest factor in this fight. This is a very big fight for both of these ladies. They're trying to stay in that championship picture, especially if you're Xiaonan. You drop your 3rd straight, you're probably dropping pretty far in the rankings, no matter if it is to the current champ, another top, and then 2 other top 5 contenders. You can't lose 3 straight and expect to be really in a title conversation anymore. But I do think the jiu-jitsu advantage is too much for Xiaonan to overcome. I'm going with Mackenzie Dern, and I have her finishing this fight. A lot of people think this fight's going to decision. I could see that too, but I'm going Mackenzie Dern by 3rd round submission and claiming her stake, still staying in the top 5. I think she's very talented. I think that she could have a possibility to challenge for the title one day. So I'm excited for this fight. I think both of these ladies have the skill set to challenge for the title at some point, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But for now, I'm going Mackenzie Dern by 3rd round submission. But that is all I have for you this week. Thank you all so much for listening. I know it's a short show. We're going to have quite a few short shows coming up just because of the lack of UFC events. I know we have one this next weekend, but then October 8th, they're taking, or 9th, 8th or 9th, they're taking another one off. And then we'll have a few in a row leading up to Thanksgiving weekend. After that, I believe, is the last one for now without a UFC event. So thank you all again for listening. Next week, we'll have results of Mackenzie Dern, Xiaonan Fight Night, plus one on Prime Video 2. I might be talking about some of those fights. And then any other big MMA news that comes up this week. Again, thank you all so much for listening. You can find me on Instagram at Monday Night Fight Talk. You can find me on Twitter at MN Fight Talk. Feel free to comment, message me anything on any type of topics that you would like to hear. my opinion on, whether it be a short one, whether it be a long one, doesn't matter. Please reach out to me. I would love to interact with the fans more of Monday Night Fight Talk, because that's always fun. But again, I'll see you all next week, same time, same place. Monday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Monday Night Fight Talk.